Stephen Bolt joins us from Western Australia. He is a founding director of the Livestock Collective. Stephen, welcome to the Flow Network.
Yeah, morning Ricky, morning to all your listeners.
Great to have you join us on this Livestock Collective. We'll talk about that in a moment, but just tell us a bit about your farming, just your involvement in the agribusiness sector.
Yeah, so I'm a third generation farmer. I work and live in Corrige in Western Australia, so in the wheat belt. Run a mixed farming operation, but focus is around merino sheep, merino enterprise for our business.
All right, and this is a great perspective to be getting from the West when we have a debate about live exports roaring along at the moment with the federal government declaring it will phase it out. But before we get into that, tell us about the Livestock Collective and why you were a founding director of it.
Yeah, so Livestock Collective was formed back in 2018. We certainly were focused around the live export trade and the lack of information that was in that space for general public. So we had a lot of, people always wanting to know more about live export because, there was only the animal activists out telling, what they thought to be the reality. We've formed the company, myself, Director Holly Luderman. She hails from on the Murray River in Victoria. John Cunnington is another director, and then we also have staff member Millie Nolan, who also comes from rural Victoria. So, we've got a good understanding of, agricultural production right throughout Australia, but certainly a key focus is live export and, filling that void of information that's out there around what happens from on-farm production all the way up the supply chain to end market into our importing countries.
Now, was part of the genesis of the collective, was it partly in relation to what we saw happen with cattle under a former federal Labor government? Were you concerned that something might move in that direction and you needed to be proactive about it on sheep?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, that void of information, if there's no one there in that space, people can't make an informed decision. So, certainly it's, the live export trade is so important to the whole of Australian agriculture and, whether it's, cattle, dairy, sheep, it's hugely important because it gives us access to different markets and we actually, the welfare benefits that we bring with Australia being the leader for animal welfare in live export actually increases the animal welfare standard right across the world.
Now, I want to talk about the animal welfare element in a moment, but I did pick up something from a Western Victorian upper house MP, Bev MacArthur, flagging that, and you're in the merino game yourself, there is possible risk with this ban on live exports that even in the breeding game there could be unintended consequences of this blanket ban the federal government's trying to put forward. Yeah,
look, it's hugely concerning that the Labor Party's position is to move ahead with a phase out of live export. The science now, since new regulations have been implemented since 2018, we've seen huge success in, every vessel that's travelled to the Middle East. And those regulations have, included, lower stocking densities on board. We've seen an increase in ventilation. The effort, onboard inspectors, which has reduced due to COVID at the moment, but we had onboard inspectors with vessels heading across to the Middle East, independent, that report back to government daily, back to the department. So there's huge changes that have been made, and we've seen the success in every voyage of how well the livestock are travelling to destination.
Now, you said earlier that live export is critical across the whole of the Australian agricultural sector. Indeed, Adelaide saw some exports, small numbers, but some resume after a bit of a hiatus recently. How does it interconnect with the broader livestock game across Australia?
Well, it is predominantly, yes, like you say, out of Western Australia, but the flow-on effect if we took live export, because it is a completely separate market, this live market that we supply, where people, use the argument, well, why don't we kill them here within Western Australia? Well, firstly, we don't have the kill capacity at the abattoirs to kill those livestock, and even if we did kill them here, there's no market for that chilled and frozen because the live is completely separate. So those importing countries will just turn their trade to other countries like, they are at the moment, Somalia, Romania and the like, where they'll just get more lives in from those countries to provide for their people and, for their food security.
Well, and this is the critical thing. When I look at the Agriculture Department in WA's indications of where, in recent times, the destinations have been Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan. It's largely to comply with Islamic requirements, isn't it, that the animal needs to be live, and we really couldn't meet those halal or other slaughter conditions in some conservative Islamic countries if we were refrigerating them or somehow slaughtering under their practices here and somehow sending it. They're just not going to recognise it as a refrigerated halal product, are they?
Yeah, look, that's definitely part of it, although we do send halal killed, chilled and frozen up there. But there's certainly, I've travelled through the Middle East to all the feedlots and abattoirs that Australia delivers to, and, we've seen the amount of pride that the families taking in going to the abattoir and selecting their sheep and actually viewing. So they view the sheep being processed right through until they collect their box at the other end and head off home. But it's really important for them to be there when they watch their sheep slaughtered and processed through that abattoir space.
Now, we often hear in our broadcast areas, regional Victoria, South Australia and southern New South Wales, are concerned that sometimes these sort of issues are directed by metropolitan concerns. There's been protests and the like over at Fremantle in that electorate that Labor's often contesting with the Greens now about their seat. Is this live export ban got more to do with political imperatives for Labor than what's good for the livestock industry?
Yeah, look, I think the ramifications, if we continue down this path, will be huge, particularly for regional Western Australia. And, there is no doubt we're unfortunately seeing, less influenced by, rural voters as, the city populations grow. And, that's where we see the Livestock Collective being so important that, we use social media as a really important tool to be able to share and connect and tell the stories of the people in the supply chain. So tell the real stories of the truck drivers, the shearers, the growers, the livestock agents, so that people can understand that, get that sense of connection. It's not just an industry, it is the people behind that industry that matter, and, it matters to them, their families and their livelihoods. To have live export available to them.
Well, it's a good website, thelivestockcollective.com.au, and as you say, on social media as well, as anyone that wants to connect with you. Stephen Bolt is the founding director of the Livestock Collective. Thanks so much for joining us today on FlowFM.
Yeah, look, appreciate you taking the time to discuss live exports. Thanks, Ricky.